Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel. My name is Botox Games. Today we are discussing rumors of a Nintendo Direct happening next week. We have a very reliable insider still claiming that it is happening in July, even though the clock is ticking. We have about a week left. He is still saying it is happening, but we also have a couple of other things to discuss, including a new release date for a game that is launching next week, and the company that is releasing this game didn't really announce that it's actually happening. It just kind of popped up on the eShop, and it feels primed for some sort of Nintendo Direct appearance, maybe a shadow drop there. We also have a few other things to discuss, including Fire Emblem on Switch 2. A lot of people think that will be announced in the near future. We have talk of Prime 4 maybe missing its 2025 release date. I completely disagree with that, but we're going to get into that as well. So that's what we're talking about today. Of course, if you are new here and you enjoy Nintendo Switch 2 discussion, rumors, theory, speculation, all that fun stuff, I would appreciate you liking the video and subscribing. Let's get into it. Okay, so to catch you all up, we had a rumor from about a week ago from Nate the Hate saying in his podcast on July 14th that he had heard there would be a July Direct happening after Donkey Kong Bonanza released, and immediately I was like, okay, well, Nate the Hate, very reliable. That must mean it's happening in the final week of July because, well, this week we have Mario Party Jamboree TV. We also have the Pokemon Presents, of course, that happened, although it wasn't the most exciting thing in the world. I kind of figured they wouldn't want to do it this week because there is so much stuff already happening this week. You know, they're promoting Pokemon Legends EA, they're hyping up Mario Party Jamboree. So the final week of July really started to kind of just make sense for when we would actually see a presentation from Nintendo. And he doubled down on it today, or really just reiterated what he said before. Timo over here on Twitter said, but a Direct is still happening in July at Nate the Hate, and Nate the Hate said, to my knowledge. So just nice to know that the most reliable Nintendo Direct source is still saying there is a Direct happening in July to his knowledge. Even now that we're, you know, just a week away, we only have a couple more slots it could pop up. He is still saying, like, hey, to my knowledge, there is a Nintendo Direct next week. He never specified what kind of Direct. Is it a partner showcase, a mini, a general? I definitely think it'll be a general at this point. There is just too much stuff for Nintendo to say and announce. There's a lot of third-party stuff to say as well, but that can make up part of the Direct, right? We need first-party news for a lot of games coming out this year, but also even for early 2026, and of course that encompasses third parties as well. So I do think we are getting a full general Direct next week, and we have further evidence to support a Direct next week, and that comes from this Arc System Works game, Dear Me, I Was. So this is the same artist that worked on Hotel Dusk and Another Code. They are doing this new eShop-only digital download title, Dear Me, I Was, that is clearly in a similar vein. We now have a release date for this game, however, it just kind of pops up on the Japanese eShop without any fanfare from the developer. So it's releasing on July 31st, which is next Thursday. Nintendo Directs typically take place on a Wednesday or a Thursday. This just kind of popped up with no warning. So I don't know if the date wasn't meant to pop up right now. Maybe it's supposed to be a shadow drop in the Direct next week, but it was always weird to me that they announced this in their own like Arc System Works showcase, and it was never in a Nintendo Direct, because it's worth noting this is a Switch 2 exclusive. Nintendo's not publishing it like you would expect with previous Sing games, so Hotel Dusk and Another Code and The Last Window, but it is clearly in that similar mold, and it is a Switch 2 exclusive game. I believe they talked about how they're using the mouse controls and everything. So this is a developer and a team that had Switch 2 dev kits early enough to get an exclusive project out, even if it is a smaller, you know, $5-6 price title. This is something that is exclusive to the Switch 2. They announced it for summer 2025 a month ago, but now it has a release date for July 31st on the Japanese eShop. This to me feels like a slam dunk. Okay, this is going to be in the Direct next week, and it will be shadow dropped during that, and get its, you know, full marketing, because let's be real, not that many people watch the Arc System Works Direct, and even the people that were watching it, well, they were watching it for fighting games. So this has to pop up in a Nintendo Direct to get any sort of word of mouth and buzz going around it, and I think it will, and I think July 31st is the date we're looking at. I think we will get a Direct on July 31st. It just makes too much sense at this point, and it's weird that this date just kind of popped up on the eShop. Maybe Arc System Works doesn't have faith in it or something, and they're just going to, you know, quietly put it out. But why would they not have announced the release date last month? Reminder, this game was only announced a couple of weeks ago, like at the end of June. So why wasn't there a release date then? No, this is going to pop up in a Direct next week, and it's going to shadow drop. I would almost be willing to bet money on that, to be honest with you. And hey, that's cool. Apparently it's a very small title, so it's something you can kind of get through in an afternoon. I really liked Another Code when I played it last year, so I still need to go back to Hotel Dusk, but this is something I'm definitely interested in checking out, especially if it is only like, you know, an hour or two, like just something kind of small, digestible. You know, I'm still busy with 100%ing Bonanza, playing Jamboree TV starting tomorrow, playing some other games like The Somnium Files coming out this week. So there's a lot of stuff. A nice couple-hour adventure, little emotional visual novel style game, adventure game, that's gonna hit the spot, I think. But I also think it's one of those things where, yes, we have Nate the Hate saying there's a direct. Yes, we have this Dear Me I Was, let's say, evidence for a direct next week. But also, like, at a certain point, they need to say something, right? We gotta get some news on these first-party games. We are about to enter August, and we don't have anything dated beyond Kirby, right? We have Dragon Drive on August 14th. We have Kirby on, I guess it's the 28th, right? 2 weeks after Dragon Drive. And we have other things slated for 2025, but we don't know when they're coming out. We have Prime 4. We have, well, Pokemon. That's October. We know that. That's also Pokemon Company, kind of a separate, entity in of itself. Then we have Kirby Air Riders. We have Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment. We have a good slate of games coming out this year. We just don't know when they're coming out. And in the case of Kirby Air Riders, I mean, we literally have not seen that game. That game is coming out within like 3 or 4 months, and we haven't seen a second of gameplay. We need a Nintendo Direct to show these things. And yeah, they could have dropped these things on Twitter or on Nintendo Today, and I guess they still could do that, but they've waited so long. To me, it feels like they're really building up some sort of bigger presentation for Switch 2 owners, which is important as we move in. I mean, we just got information that the Switch 2 was it broke the record for best-selling console of all time in the US for a launch month. You need a Nintendo Direct that's going to wow people. You're gonna need some game announcements and some trailers that are going to blow people away to make them feel confident in their Switch 2 purchase, but to also ensure that momentum continues into the holiday. Now, frankly, Nintendo could sit there and do nothing with their hands behind their backs, and they announced the Pokemon Legends EA bundle. This thing's going to fly off the shelves all winter. But it's still like a kind of a perception thing of you want to ensure your fan base is excited about the future while also trying to entice new people to buy the console, even if they're, let's say, not interested in Metroid or Hyrule Warriors, because let's be real, those are kind of more, I don't want to say niche titles, but, one's a spinoff, one's Metroid Prime, which has never been a crazy seller. You're going to want to show them some stuff for 2026 that's going to get them very excited and make them want to invest in this console this holiday when hopefully they have, a ton of stock available at stores. I know right now it's still available at Best Buy. Like, they really seem to have figured out the stock issues. So a Nintendo Direct right now, beyond the rumors, beyond the clear evidence that is Dear Me I Was releasing next week, it kind of just makes sense. And I mean, they're really waiting down to the wire too, because I mean, we thought this would happen in June. I guess it kind of, in retrospect, makes sense to not have done it in June because, well, we were playing Mario Kart World, we were busy with the launch of the console, and then we had the Bonanza Direct, and they really wanted to focus on Bonanza, which is their clear Game of the Year, nominee this year, right? Unless Prime 4 blows us away. So that kind of makes sense now in retrospect. You want to get all that out of the way, and then you announce kind of like phase 2, frankly, for the console, where you have a bunch of third-party games and dates announced, you have all of your first-party stuff dated for the rest of the year, and then maybe a little bits of teases for 2026. And speaking of those release dates for first-party games, this popped up this morning, and I think it is a good sign that we can expect a release date for it very soon. Reading from DualShockers here, age rating hints that new Zelda game is coming very soon. Necro Felipe over at Universal Nintendo pointed out that Hyrule Warriors Age of Imprisonment has been rated for release in Brazil. So usually when a game is rated like this, it doesn't necessarily mean like, okay, the game's coming out very soon. However, it is a good sign that like, okay, I mean, it's rated. Things are happening. Things are moving. Sometimes it does mean an announcement is imminent. We did see, I think, a month ago or so now, that Elden Ring was rated for release through one of these, rating boards. Of course, talking about the Switch 2 version. So I would say if we're getting a Direct this week, yeah, Hyrule Warriors, we're going to see a lot of it in that showcase, and it will have a release date. And I still think it's going to be this year. I know some people are pointing and saying, oh, it said winter, so I think it's going to be January. I don't think any of the first-party games they showed on April 2nd are next year, unless you count Duskbloods, which they don't seem to be publishing from Software. But in terms of like Hyrule Warriors, Kirby, I think all of it is going to be 2025. And Hyrule Warriors, I mean, is it possible it's not ready? I guess, but Koei Tecmo and Omega Force, and I mean, we have this new AAA studio now working on this game, but their machines over there. They pump out these Warrior games like nobody's business, and it's already been an extended period of time since we had Three Hopes come out in 2022. I think this game's probably ready to go. They just, they didn't want to show too much of it. If you remember back in 2017, they didn't show much of Fire Emblem Warriors when it was announced, and hey, it still came out that holiday. So I think we will get a release date for this, and I still think it'll be probably like a November title. I know they said winter, but that just feels right. December, I guess they could do December, but that feels a little late for me, especially since it is a Zelda game. Even if it is a spinoff, this is a game that will sell millions of copies, being just tied to Tears of the Kingdom. Inherently, it's going to do well. So I think November is what we're looking at here for Age of Imprisonment. We also had this pop up. Now, it's a little funny, reading from Twisted Voxel here. Just this headline. Listen, I get it. You got to have like the simple titles and things like that for your articles for SEO purposes. But a new Fire Emblem game appears to be in development for Nintendo Switch 2. Wow. That's so unexpected. No, of course, there's a Fire Emblem game being developed for Switch 2. It's already been 2.5 years since Fire Emblem Engage. We've had rumors of Fire Emblem 4 remake. We don't know if Koei Tecmo's doing another thing after Three Houses, and even Engage itself is rumored to have finished development in 2021. So, frankly, I think we are extremely overdue for a Fire Emblem game. But reading on here, there was basically some job listings that popped up. I think it was Doc Dre, I want to say, is the YouTuber's name. He's been around for a while. He noticed this employee at Nintendo doing contract work for 3D character modeling, where on his LinkedIn it said he finished his 3D character modeling contract from January to April 2025, and it says, for the listing here, it says the sequel to Nintendo's SRPG tactical role-playing game on Switch 2. So I guess you could maybe make the argument that that's Advance Wars or something, but I mean, let's be real, it's Fire Emblem, and actually, I think this is a prime candidate for one of those 2026 games they want to announce now to get people more hyped up for 2026. You announce it a little bit early. It's a major IP. It's a, more niche major IP, but it's still in that realm, right? Fire Emblem has been a staple of Nintendo's lineup every couple of years now since Awakening came out over, a decade and a half ago almost. A new Fire Emblem game being in the Direct next week, I think that just makes a lot of sense. Even if it's not the 4 remake, I think we could even see, like, the next new game. I don't know what's going on with the 4 remake, Genealogy of the Holy War. I mean, that felt like such a slam dunk. Emily Rogers reported it so long ago. But even if it's not that, I think pretty much no matter what, we are getting a Fire Emblem game announced next week, because this is one of the longest gaps we've ever had for Fire Emblem. And maybe it's because they're sitting on certain things. Maybe they're sitting on that remake. Maybe they're sitting on this new game. But I think Intelligent Systems is ready to go, and I will be very excited to see what a next-gen Fire Emblem looks like. Three Houses visually, I think, was a big disappointment, even if every other aspect of that game is pretty good. I mean, the gameplay is not my favorite, but the story and the characters, obviously. I mean, that's the thing people love about that game. That's why I kind of prefer Engage, because I think the gameplay was better there, and visually it was certainly a step up, even if some of the character design wasn't the best. Point is, I'm excited to see a Switch 2 take on Fire Emblem from them, and I think if Nintendo wants to start teasing some of their 2026 lineup, this would be the perfect place to do it, and I think this is the perfect franchise and game to do it with. I think Fire Emblem has to be coming soon. It has to be. And then the final thing I wanted to discuss in today's video is Metroid Prime 4. So KIRBY Talks is an interviewer over on YouTube who does a lot of interviews with developers, and we know has sources at Retro Studios, be that ex-employees, current employees. But basically, he put out a tweet yesterday, and it kind of stirred up a little bit of controversy because it has people worrying about Prime 4 and if it can actually release this year. So originally, a friend of the channel, Joey Ferris, said, "I'll be kind of bummed if Prime 4 misses the cutoff for this year's Game Awards. I know it's not that important in the grand scheme of things, but I'd love for the game to be exposed to the show's millions of viewers, regardless if it wins." And KIRBY Talks quoted it saying, "I know Metroid fans are getting impatient, but the reason there is no release date is because the game isn't finished. If after the next Direct there is no specific date, I will elaborate on what is going on to ease people's fears. Be patient a little longer, it is coming." So we are, end of July, almost August, and he's saying the game isn't finished yet. That is, I would say, that inherently sounds like a bad thing, especially when we're talking about Nintendo, who is kind of known for sitting on games, right? I mean, we were just talking about Fire Emblem and how Engage was sitting for years, supposedly, before it released. For Prime 4 to not be done at this point is honestly kind of surprising. I'm not going to deny that. However, I'm seeing a lot of people saying, like, oh no, Prime 4 is going to get delayed, and it's not going to make it out this year. I mean, I'm not going to say it's impossible for the game to get delayed. Obviously, this is a very big game in scope, especially for Retro, who hasn't made a Prime game in so long. So, yeah, it's going to take a while, and it already has taken a while. It's taken them 6 years since they took over development in 2019. But I personally am not worried about this game. I personally think there is, frankly, little chance it actually does get delayed, just because they've been so outwardly spoken about 2025. This is a 2025 game. We've had people play it at multiple events. I've played this game. I've played Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Nintendo very rarely delays things, especially if it's something that people have actually played. In fact, I can't really think of too many examples of that. Advance Wars, back in 2021, of course, that was delayed for unfortunate reasons. But usually, if a game gets to the point where they're demoing it at events, like they did for Prime 4, usually it's making it across the finish line within the time frame they established. And considering how much of a mess Prime 4 has been, where they had to make a video announcing that they were rebooting development, I don't think Nintendo would have said 2025 last year unless they were extremely confident that they can release it in 2025. But also, if Retro Studios went to Nintendo and said, hey, listen, we need a few more months, hopefully Nintendo does give them that time. I just think given how confident they've been about 2025, even that marketing in the London Underground where it said out now, but then it got updated to say 2025. I mean, even that, that was marketing they put up recently that said the game was coming out this year. I would be surprised if it got delayed, but I am also surprised to hear that it's not finished from Kiwi Talks. That, to me, that strikes me as a little odd. I know it's standard for a lot of AAA developers to finish their games a couple of weeks before release. That's not really Nintendo's MO, but also Retro is one of their only Western studios, so maybe that plays a part into it. I'm not too sure, but I don't know. I'm not worried. I think we will see Prime 4 at the Direct next week, and I think it will have a release date, and we will be eating, because I think this game is still coming out in the very near future. I think we will see it in September or October. We will have to wait and see, though. But let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are you with me, and are you expecting a Nintendo Direct next week? I really have no doubt in my mind, to be honest. It just feels right. Nate the Hate saying it. We have all these other things kind of pointing towards some sort of Direct in the coming week. So let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. Are you expecting one? And what do you want to see from it? Do you think we will see Prime 4 and it will finally get a release date? I mean, I would certainly hope so. Do you think we'll see Fire Emblem and maybe some more 2026 titles get teased in the showcase? I would love to hear your thoughts down there. Of course, subscribe here for more Nintendo Switch 2 discussions, theory, speculation, all that fun stuff. Follow me on Twitter at BoTalksGames. And until next time, folks, peace.